Lots of people don't like the fact that we can educate people through social media, but if we do it in the right, respectful, evidence-based way, then actually for a lot of people they've got nowhere else to go because they're going to their doctors in India and in the UK. They're not being believed, they're not being listened to, they're being dismissed, they're being turned away, they're being given out-of-date information. So what do? It's not fair to just carry on with the suffering without a solution. About 80 to 85% of women who come to our clinic just say they don't feel like themselves.
What are you seeing happening around the world? Are you seeing any breakthrough technology for hormonal care, doctor?
So what's interesting is we don't need new treatments. We need access to basic bioidentical hormones that we've known about for decades.
Which is so inexpensive also.
Which is incredibly cheap. The problem is, or one of the problems, there's many problems. One of the problems is there's some new non-hormonal treatments that have come to market, and the drug companies have spent about $2 billion getting them to market. And they fund all the menopause societies. So that's making people more uncertain about hormone treatments. So there's a lot of confusion. I think what is advancing quickly is femtech, or whatever you want to call it, where we can empower millions of women very quickly. It takes the same effort to put my podcast out to one person or a million people. It doesn't matter. And I think that technology is making a real difference, actually. And social media, lots of people don't like the fact that we can educate people through social media, but if we do it in the right, respectful, evidence-based way, then actually for a lot of people they've got nowhere else to go because they're going to their doctors in India and in the UK. They're not being believed, they're not being listened to, they're being dismissed, they're being turned away, they're being given out-of-date information. So what do? It's not fair to just carry on with the suffering without a solution.
So true. I mean, 3.5 years ago when someone told me about femtech, we studied 439 companies globally and in India, saw wonderful work happening around menstrual health, but everything was around mother and child.
Yeah.
And there was this sudden silence around a phase that every woman will go through for nearly half of her life, subject to 50 to 84 symptoms, which is menopause, and the 10-year run up to menopause, which is perimenopause. So, I was disturbed with that fact, and I conducted many discussions, focus groups, group discussions, workshops with women to ask them, why are you all keeping quiet? And the one answer that came to me was, can you give us a safe space to speak? Because we are not being heard. So that's how we at Miror started our communities, and we got women who are going through something similar in their phase of life, who are very happy to share. And then we got the magical ingredients of good doctors, fitness experts, nutritionists, and mental wellness experts. So that's how our communities blossomed. So thank you so much. My next question, doctor, is a woman is a fulcrum of a family, right? Same in your house, same in my house, sorry. But sometimes she feels so alone, right? Because she's going through so much. Sometimes she doesn't know why she's going through it herself. And she's so misunderstood by the one she loves the most in her life, which is her spouse or her partner, her children. Could be the extended family, like the other men in her lives, which is her father, her brothers, etc. What would your message be to that support circle, to this woman, which she'll give her life for?
Yeah. So it's really important that men are included in any conversation as well, because like for me, when you live with your body 24/7, you don't always realize how much you're changing. And sometimes you need someone externally to look, like my daughter did, and say, oh, you're not the same, what's going on? And although, I love my husband dearly, he didn't think about asking me because he didn't have the knowledge that he does now. Because he's a doctor, but he wasn't taught about hormonal changes and menopause in the way that he should have done. So rather than me suffering for 6 months, I would have loved it if he'd said after, a few weeks, Louise, you're not quite yourself. Do you want to download Balance app? Maybe talk if you've got any other symptoms. Do you think any of it could be hormonal? And learn together Because then also, if they know the solution for most women is safe, evidence-based hormone treatments, then they could say, well, look, why don't I come with you to a doctor? Why don't you tell me how you got on when you go and see them? If you didn't get the right help, should we go and find someone else for you to see? Rather than say, oh, this is just the way my relationship's going to be. This is the way my mum, my sister, my auntie's going to be. Because it's also really isolating. You know, about 80 to 85% of women who come to our clinic just say they don't feel like themselves anymore. And it's a really subtle thing, but most women who are listening to this who have hormonal changes will know exactly what I mean. You know that you're something else. Like, people say to me, I don't recognize who I've become. Like, my joy of life has gone. I'm existing rather than living. You know, and I'm sure in Miror you hear this too. But women don't know that there's a solution. And so if you don't know there's a solution, you just put up with it. And then you stop talking about it, because if there's no solution, you've just got to carry on. And women are strong, and we will carry on. But actually, why should we carry on only 50 or 60%? Because then it creeps into everything else. And then we're still exposing ourselves to this risk of diseases. And the more we can do to keep healthy and stop diseases happening, none of us want to go to the doctors when we're older. And, you know, especially in your cultures, the grandmother is really important.
So true.
And the fitter and stronger she can be, the better for her children and grandchildren. But that's not happening because they're not as strong, and they're not as healthy because they're not having hormones. And this is really having such a negative impact throughout. I dread to think about having osteoporosis or dementia, because I won't be there for my children in the same way. So we have to think about not just what we're doing to ourselves, but what we're doing for others around us.
Two beautiful things happened to me speaking to you the last few days. One is that HRT and hormones can be safely, as per you, given to older women. Because what I was told was you got to stop at 60. And I think that you say we can give it beyond that, right?
Yeah. So when we talk about hormone treatments, it's really important to be clear here that I'm talking about the natural bioidentical hormones. So they're the same structure as our own hormones. So they're different to those synthetic ones that were given in the study that scared everyone away. In that case, we can give them to older women because we're just replacing the natural hormones. The same way that we would give insulin to an older woman who had diabetes. We're just giving estradiol, which is a form of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone to women who need it. There's generations of women who have missed out on HRT because of these unfounded fears. So then why allow these women to suffer just because they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s? If they want to try hormone treatments, they can. And we often see women in our clinic and they come back and they're just completely different.
Wow.
So,
And come to think of it logically, stronger bones,
yeah.
better cognitive powers, better heart health,
Yeah.
more energy, you sleep
Yeah.
better. I think an older woman would be so happy if we gave her all this, right?
Absolutely. You know? And just thinking about, urinary tract infections.
UTI, sure.
They're so common in older women, and about a third or about 30% of sepsis is due to urinary tract infections. Yet we know, even using vaginal hormones, which are different to HRT, they just work locally, they can melt away urinary tract infections.
Wow.
So if you say to people, we can reduce your risk of sepsis just by having a very safe, localized vaginal hormone, it's incredible, because a lot of women, when they're older, they have infections, urinary tract infections, then they become confused, then they fall over, then they break their bone, and then it's just this slippery slope. And we don't want to be like that when we're older.
There is I have women in my family who are on HRT who used to have a lot of UTI. But after HRT, the last 3 years, no UTI, it's gone. Wow.
Yeah.
And the second thing that I just really loved hearing from you was that HRT is not for women after 40 or 45, when they're perimenopausal, but actually younger women, PCOS, PCOD, PMS. I mean, so we can actually safely give hormones to that age group also in their 20s and 30s?
Yeah, so we have to think hormones are changing all the time, and throughout a woman's menstrual cycle they often have a drop of progesterone especially and estradiol before their periods, and that can trigger symptoms, physical and mental health symptoms for some women. So PMS, premenstrual syndrome, affects 95% of women. PMDD is a more severe form, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. But that's about 1 in 20 women. So that is, this drop of hormones can trigger myriad of symptoms that are often very severe. And then people with PCOS or PMOS, postnatal depression, there's a massive drop of hormones when the baby's born. And so all of these are hormonal disorders.
Yeah.
So then if you've got a hormonal disorder, you give a hormone. Now, the problem is a lot of people, when they think they're taking hormones, they're actually taking contraceptive hormones, which are not hormones, they're chemicals. And it's a lot safer for younger people to take natural hormones than synthetic hormones. Yet a lot of doctors think all hormones are the same and don't understand. But women are getting it. You know, I see a lot of people who are in their 20s, early 30s, and they've got PMDD, or they might have had an early menopause, because around 1 in 30 women under the age of 40 have a menopause at a young age as well. You know, my youngest patient was menopausal when she was 12. Her periods never developed properly.
Wow.
So her ovaries were streak ovaries. She didn't have proper ovaries. So she was at school. Can you imagine being at school with brain fog and memory problems and joint pains?
Oh my God. 12?
Yeah.
Final parting message. If a woman is listening today and recognizes herself in this conversation, what would be the 3 topmost things that you would tell her? And I hope you'd say something about the community.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just kidding, but what would be your top 3 things?
So the first thing is get more information. So, you know, download Balance app, go to my podcast, just read and understand, but from the right people. So get information that's relevant for you. The second thing is don't do it alone. Share it with other people. Talk about what's going on. Think about your options. And then the third thing is, if you want hormone treatment, make sure you get it. It might not be from the first provider, it might be the second, the third, the fourth, but it's your body and it's your choice. If you choose that you want a hormone treatment, then you should be able to have it, because you're investing in your future health as well.
Like the airlines say it, right? First put the mask on yourself.
Yeah.
If you're breathing well,
Yeah.
everyone else around you will
Absolutely.
breathe well also. So,
Yeah.
and that's why we at Miror, we have our own app, so much information. You know, we put 5 to 6 reels every week on Insta. We have about 12 to 15 blogs every week. But, you know, but we take inspiration from what you've done with your Balance app. I mean, it's such a fantastic storehouse of information. You've cracked the code on HRT and modern HRT and good hormonal care, which we hope to, you know, work with you and your team so that we can give it to the millions of women in India. Dr. Louise Newson, what an absolute delight it was talking to you.
Oh, thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
you.